Sienna Hayes sat alone at the cafe's corner table, sunlight pouring through the large glass windows like a spotlight that exposed every insecurity she spent years trying to bury. The midday crowd buzzed around her, waiters delivering plates with carefree smiles, coworkers laughing over lunch breaks, and couples leaning close with love in their eyes. Sienna wasn't here for joy or comfort. She was here because she had gathered every ounce of courage inside her and said yes to a blind date set up by her upbeat coworker, who insisted the man was kind and good. She believed maybe this would be the day her story changed. Instead, she had just lived through her worst nightmare. He had looked her up and down, eyes scanning her like she was a disappointment on a menu, then muttered excuses about an emergency call before bolting for the exit without a goodbye. The chair he left bouncing in place mocked her. The untouched glass of iced tea across from her felt like a cruel symbol. Her hands trembled as she clutched her purse. All her life, people judged her first and only by the shape of her body. Today was supposed to be different. Today was supposed to prove she deserved love too. If you believe kindness and second chances matter, please like this video, subscribe to the channel Kindness Journal, comment, and share to support more stories that inspire change. Sienna wanted to disappear. She could almost hear whispers that didn't exist, strangers' eyes burning into her back. She tried telling herself no one cared, no one noticed, but her heart didn't believe it. She regretted everything, the hope she put into this date, the dress she bought that she thought made her look soft and charming, the smile she practiced to seem confident, the way she allowed herself to believe she might actually be wanted. She stared out the window, pretending she was anywhere else, holding back tears that kept rising like a tide determined to break her. Her therapist once told her progress wasn't linear, that some days would hurt harder than others. Today felt like all the pain she had ever swallowed decided to wake up again. Across the room, a little boy with messy brown hair sat at a table with a tired-looking man in a faded work shirt. They seemed to be having their own rough day. Crayons scattered on the floor, a spilled orange juice creeping toward the edge of the table, and the father rubbing the bridge of his nose like he was trying hard not to lose patience. Sienna watched them because it was easier than watching the emptiness in front of her. She saw the child look toward her, curious and unfiltered the way kids always were. Their eyes met. He smiled, wide and genuine, showing a small gap where a tooth was missing. Sienna felt something shift in her chest, a reminder that kindness could still exist in simple forms. The father noticed his son staring and glanced over as well. His expression changed when he saw her, not disgust, not dismissal, something softer, something that looked a lot like understanding. Sienna tried to steady her breathing, but her heart kept pulsing fast. Her mind repeated the man's look of disappointment, like a cruel film reel. She wondered why she ever hoped someone could see past her weight to the woman who cared deeply about everything, who read poetry in secret, who sang quietly while cooking, who always helped others even when no one helped her. She wanted to leave, to escape the humiliation suffocating her. She pulled out her wallet to pay for the drink she barely touched, determined to walk away before tears betrayed her in public. Before she could stand, a gentle voice spoke near her. The father from the other table had walked over. He stood straight, yet there was a vulnerability in his eyes. His son peeked out from behind his leg, still smiling. The man introduced himself as Marco Reyes, a construction supervisor who worked a few blocks away. He hesitated as if afraid to intrude, then told her he had unintentionally overheard her date's cruel excuse. Sienna's shoulders stiffened. Shame rose like heat beneath her skin. She expected pity or awkward silence to follow. Instead, Marco said he wanted her to know she didn't deserve to be treated that way. Not ever. His voice was calm, almost careful, as though he knew she had been holding on by a thread. Those words hit deeper than she expected. Sienna lowered her gaze, blinking fast to keep tears from falling. Marco asked if she and his son, Illy, could join her so she wouldn't have to finish her day feeling abandoned. She hesitated, Strangers offering kindness sometimes felt even scarier than rejection, because what if it vanished too? Before she could answer, Illy shuffled up to her side, holding a crayon drawing of what looked like a sun wearing sunglasses. He said she looked like sunshine because her dress was yellow and happy. Sienna let out a breath she didn't know she was holding. The boy's innocence cracked something open inside her. Marco smiled, and Sienna nodded slowly. They sat together, turning an awkward moment into a shared meal. Marco told her he was a single father navigating a life he never expected after his wife left years ago. He admitted he didn't always know what he was doing, but he tried every day because Illy deserved love that stayed. There was no polished speech, no attempt to impress. He simply talked to her like she mattered. Sienna found herself opening up more than she normally would. She explained how she often felt people saw her body before they saw her soul. She confessed that today felt like proof she wasn't enough. Marco listened closely. His attention didn't wander. His expression didn't shift into judgment. It was the first time in a long time she felt seen without being measured. The afternoon light softened around them as time passed unnoticed. The cafe staff cleaned tables and reset silverware for the next wave of customers. People came and went, but their bubble of connection remained untouched. Sienna learned Marco loved sketching old buildings in a notebook he carried everywhere. She learned Illy adored dinosaurs and believed every hero needed a cape. They learned she baked cupcakes for local shelters during holidays and took long walks every morning to clear her thoughts. Her laugh came easier, surprising her each time. Her shoulders relaxed. The hurt didn't vanish, but it stopped crushing her. When their meals were finished, Marco insisted on paying. Sienna tried to protest, but he shook his head kindly. He said she deserved to feel cared for, especially after what happened. They stepped outside into the warm afternoon, the city humming with life. Illy immediately took Sienna's hand like it was natural. She looked up at Marco, startled by the gesture, but he just smiled and said his son trusted his heart more than grown-ups did. She felt shy, yet safer than she had all day. They walked together toward a small city park nearby. Illy raced ahead to the playground, leaving the adults standing under a tree watching him. Marco turned to her and said he wanted to ask something. He admitted he had noticed her before his son did, sitting alone looking like she wanted to disappear, even though she deserved to shine. He said he hadn't walked over because he thought she needed help. He walked over because he wanted to know her. His honesty caught her breath. She asked why. Marco answered that some people carry light inside them even when the world tries to dim it. He believed she was one of those people. Maybe he needed that kind of light in his life too. Sienna wasn't used to being spoken to with sincerity that held no hidden agenda. She looked toward the sky, eyes stinging with emotion. She thought of every time she told herself she wasn't lovable. She thought of every person who reinforced that lie. Marco's words didn't fix years of wounds, but they cracked the door open to healing. She told him it scared her to hope again. Marco nodded and said he understood. Hope required bravery, especially after heartbreak. He asked if she would be willing to take one small brave step. Maybe they could get coffee again sometime, not as strangers trying to run from pain, but as two people choosing a chance. Sienna didn't answer right away. She watched Illy trying to climb the slide backwards, laughing when he failed but trying again anyway. Children rarely gave up until joy was found. She realized she wanted to reclaim that part of herself, the part that believed in possibilities. She said yes, not because she felt confident, but because she wanted to learn how to be. Marco smiled, brighter than she had seen all afternoon. He gave her his number, promising no games or disappearing acts. They walked back to where his truck was parked. Illy hugged her goodbye, asking if she could join them again soon for ice cream, because ice cream fixed everything. Sienna laughed and told him she would try. As they drove away, Sienna stood in the warm breeze, her heart feeling different, not healed, not perfect, just open. She walked home with lighter steps, replaying the moment Marco approached her table. A moment that changed the direction of her day, maybe even her life. She realized her worth was never tied to the small mind of a man who couldn't see beyond her weight. It was tied to her kindness, her resilience, her ability to keep hoping even when hope felt foolish. Days later, Sienna met Marco and Ellie again, then again. Each time, the fear inside her loosened a little more. Marco treated her like a person deserving of joy rather than someone lucky to be noticed. Ellie drew her pictures and called her his sunshine friend. Sienna began seeing herself through kinder eyes. She understood now that love doesn't arrive only for certain kinds of people with certain kinds of bodies. Real love sees the soul and chooses to stay. If this story touched your heart, please like the video, comment, share, and subscribe to Kindness Journal so more people learn that compassion can change lives. Before the final moment of the story, please comment one beautiful truth. Everybody deserves love that stays. Sienna's journey didn't become perfect. She still had days when mirrors felt cruel. She still stumbled through insecurities. Yet she no longer believed she was alone in those struggles. Marco and Ellie stood beside her, not to rescue her, but to walk with her as she learned to see her own beauty. One quiet evening, as sunlight faded into gold and the city softened into calm, Marco told her he was grateful she showed up to that blind date, even if the man who arranged it walked away. Because without that painful beginning, they never would have crossed paths. Sienna felt tears of gratitude rise. Sometimes rejection isn't a closed door. Sometimes it is a doorway to a better chapter waiting just beyond heartbreak. Her story didn't end with the weight she carried on her body. It began with the strength she carried in her heart.